Amazing what DNA can tell us now.
That's incredible.
Isn't it? Well, welcome to our Friday edition of our Roundtable. Should be a good one.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
We're joined by Ellis Henican, radio and TV commentator, and Jack Burkman, conservative strategist and host of Behind the Curtain. Let's talk Joe Biden, guys, on this Friday. New York Times reporting, actually, he's considering running with maybe the pledge that he would just do one term. So he's kind of floating it out there because of the age. So, Jack, let's start with you. What do you think about this one-term pledge? I guess at the end of his first term, if he was elected, he'd be 78.
In the way, John, of a blind squirrel finds an acorn once in a while, I predicted 2 years ago on my radio show that Biden would run. Biden's an ambitious guy. You know, he was only knocked out of the race in '88 because of the plagiarism thing. That's long forgotten. I think he's in the race. I'm hearing you're going to hear an announcement right after Labor Day. There's blood in the water. The Democrats are not happy with Hillary. She's in a cycle now where she can only get negative news. You know, you do these shows. I talk to Democrats. The question I always ask is, do you endorse Hillary? Nobody wants to endorse her. They're all afraid. They're all waiting to see who comes in. You know, O'Malley's a dud. Bernie Sanders is a joke. Howard Schultz is just an image that Drudge is promoting. Who's left? Joe Biden.
Well, and Joe Biden is, I think it's fair to say, just as known for his gaffes as he is for his policy. Our friends over at YouTube made a little compilation. Let's take a listen.
Chuck, stand up, Chuck. Let him see you. Oh, God love you. What am I talking about? I tell you what, you're making everybody else stand up, though, pal.
And thank you, Dr. Pepper, and thank you, Chancellor, Dr. Paper.
A man who will be the next president of the United States, Barack America. But the Taoiseach knows a lot about it. His mom lived in Long Island for 10 years or so. God rest her soul. And although your mom's still alive as your dad passed. God bless her soul. Now is the time to heed the timeless advice from Teddy Roosevelt. Speak softly and carry a big stick. End of quote. I promise you, the president has a big stick.
Okay, so maybe not his best moments. It depends how you look at it. But despite all that, he definitely comes off, I would think it's fair to say, more personable and likable versus Hillary Clinton when you ask some people. Ellis, what do you think his chances are for running? And should Hillary Clinton be worried?
You know, it's really funny, Miranda. I'm sure a lot of people put that tape together and think they're really sticking it to Biden, right? Really making fun of him. I think it makes the guy look great. I mean, it looks like a human being, a normal person, a genuine, you know, it's a general. And I mean, I know there are people out there tittering about it, but it misreads the power and the charm of Biden. First of all, nobody knows whether Biden's going to run or not because Biden doesn't know. And I don't think you know whether he's going to run or not. But I think the reality is that there's a lot of room. There's a lot of room in this race for people to run. There are 17 and counting Republican candidates. You know what? I hope a bunch of more Dems run. I think Joe Biden would be a great person to participate in this conversation.
Jack, you know, at some point, if you're the GOP nominee, are you more fearful of a Joe Biden running or a Hillary Clinton winning the nomination for the Democratic Party?
It's a good question. You know, we really want to run against Hillary with the negatives rising day by day. I mean, that's blood in the water. That's what you want. Biden, I think the party would be fearful of Biden. Particularly, it's a challenge for any Republican to get to 270. We'd much rather try against Hillary. Biden's a well-liked guy. I mean, I like Joe Biden. I'm right of Attila the Hun. I've known him and loved him for years. He's a great guy. Biden has this advantage because he's been in national politics so long. He can snap his fingers and a national organization appears. He's probably the only one out there who doesn't really have to construct a national organization. He's been around 45 years. He's got one.
Right. Well, Hillary Clinton snagged this key endorsement. Maybe you heard about this from former Iowa Senator Tom Harkin. Ellis, do you think that this is going to impact her campaign? Does it really make a difference if he endorses her or not?
Is Tom Harkin's endorsement going to sway the election? No, probably not. I mean, he's a beloved figure in Iowa. You know, he's probably swings a few votes out there. But and in the end, you know, one of the lessons I think of this year, Miranda, is that those traditional posts, right? He got this many endorsements and he got that super PAC. Most of that stuff doesn't matter as much as it used to because voters aren't influenced the way that dumber voters in the past were. And so I think we make a mistake by focusing too much on those kind of things.
You know, Jack, you were talking about your affection for the vice president. Senator Lindsey Graham, a longtime friend of the vice president, said this about a presidential run. You know, Secretary Clinton, she won't be easy to beat, but she's going to have a lot of bags to carry. And whether Joe gets into the race or not, I don't know. But I can tell you one thing about Joe Biden. His word is his bond. There's no more decent man in American politics than Joe Biden, who is more wrong than right about almost all the issues. He'll say the same about me, Graham said, but I love him and I think he's a wonderful man. I do want to ask you this, because when Joe Biden has run for national office, he's never gotten into double digits. For whatever reason, he hasn't really taken off with the American electorate. Do you really think that he would have the staying power to possibly win a general election?
His name ID is much higher now for obvious reasons for 8 years in the vice presidency, much higher than it was in 88 or 92 or during these other times when he might have considered it. He's a nationally known figure. Democrats don't have a whole lot else. One of the things to remember is, I'm sure Ellis will agree, the Democratic bench is incredibly weak. I mean, who else do you have? Where else can you go? People are talking about Al Gore. That's like the circus comes to town at this point. There's nowhere to go. There's no one with any name ID. Biden might be their only hope.
All right, we're going to get Jack's comments and Ellis's comments after the break. But one thing, too, I think because everybody anticipated that Hillary Clinton would have a cakewalk, a lot of people sat on the sidelines and really aren't even mentioned as far as possible running in this particular election cycle. So we'll have to wait and see.
Well, when it comes to the war in the Middle East, is it mission accomplished in Iraq and Afghanistan? More than one Bush seems to think so. You're watching Newsmax Now. More after this break.
Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome back to our roundtable.
And we're continuing our conversation with Ellis Henican, radio and TV commentator, and Jeb Bush, conservative strategist and host of Behind the Curtain. Thanks for sticking around, gentlemen. Let's talk Jeb Bush.
Thank you, guys.
He has defended the foreign policy of his brother, George W. And in that defense, he may have actually borrowed a phrase from his brother. Here's what Jeb said. In 2009, Iraq was fragile but secure. It was a mission, it was accomplished in the way that there was security there, and it was because of the heroic efforts of the men and women in the United States military that it was so. And here's George W.
In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed.
I don't know if you could see the date on that, but that was May 1st, 2003. Let's start with you, Jack. Is this going to be a winning strategy for Jeb, or does he need to look towards the future?
Well, it's a good question. He said that what troubles me about Bush is he's already said a lot of different things. When the campaign began, he seemed to not want to endorse the Iraq war. Then he switched and he switched again. He said so many different things. As you can tell, I'm not a Jeb Bush fan. I think what he should have said right from the start is, look, this war was the right thing to do. Sure, there were problems. We couldn't foresee everything, but it kept the United States safe. There have been no attacks on American soil since we went into Iraq. Today, for the first time in thousands of years, you have free speech. You have talk radio in Baghdad. Yes, there are problems, but overall it was a good thing. And any problems that resulted came from Obama's withdrawing troops too early. I think he should have been very clear with that. He finally got to that position, but it was quite an evolution for him.
Ellis, for him to say mission was accomplished, I'm just surprised that this is a candidate, obviously, that's been in the spotlight, governor of Florida, that has had this many stumbles on the campaign trail already.
Yeah.
Poor Jeb, my gosh. You know, you got to feel sorry for him. I mean, he's got this uncomfortable brother that he's got to explain. We all have relatives that we're a little embarrassed about, right? I mean, at least I should speak for the Henican family at least. But listen, I mean, I'll give you a much better answer, Jack, than the one you just proposed. How about this one? We went in on a lie. It turned out to be a disaster. A whole bunch of Americans got killed. We couldn't possibly find a way out of there. No matter when we leave, it's going to be the bigger mess than it was when we arrived. Oh, and we created ISIS along the way. Maybe it wasn't really such a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's definitely not going to work for him sitting there saying, well, we shouldn't have gone to war, but now it's Obama's fault that, you know, we're having this issue with ISIS.
He'd do better with that answer.
Well,
right,
remember,
but moving along,
Rhonda,
let's talk about Marco Rubio if we can.
Yeah, Marco Rubio,
Okay.
This is another foreign policy issue.
Right.
Rubio, the son of Cuban immigrants, upset about the reopening of the U.S. Embassy in Cuba, took the occasion today to say that if he was elected president, he would roll back the deal to renew ties with Cuba. I'm curious, Jack, what your thoughts are. Is this a winning issue for Rubio and the Republicans to take on what the president did today in Cuba?
Yes, it's a winning issue for Rubio. He's got to take that position. He's Cuban. It helps him in Florida. It's a winning issue. Now, that being said, I don't think it'll help Rubio too much. Looking at him in the debate, and the debate was the first time I ever observed Rubio for a long period of time. Rubio has two problems. One, he's too dry. I mean, in some sense, he's like Mitt Romney. He's almost the perfect man, his looks, his speech, his education, but he's too dry. He doesn't have those endearing qualities that a Reagan had. And the other problem he has is he just looks too young. Rubio presents in every way as the man of the future. He wants to be the man of the present. I just don't think he's the man of the present.
Well, let's shift gears in the short time that we have remaining. Let's talk about the Iran nuclear deal. This is interesting. I'm not sure if you saw this, but 69% of Israeli citizens, as you may know, are against the Iran deal, but members of Hollywood's Jewish community are showing their support for the deal. In fact, 98 in total have signed an open letter saying the deal is in the best interests of the U.S. and Israel. Alice, are you surprised at all by this?
No, there's a lot of debate inside the Jewish community about it. The Jews in America are not a monolith. They think for themselves, and many of them have come to understand what a good deal it is. Listen, this thing is gonna be approved, right? I mean, the Dems in the House are going to stick together to the extent that they will be able to, sustain the president's veto of the legislation that's going to come through. I mean, honestly, people will yell about it, but this deal is going to be the law.
Well, we'll see what happens. Ellis Henican, Jack Burkman, thank you both for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, guys.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Make sure you stay tuned to Newsmax TV tonight on The Steve Malzberg Show.
Donald Trump will talk about illegal immigration and many other issues coming up tonight at 7 o'clock. We just wanted to make it very dramatic.
That was dramatic,
wasn't it?
Well, you got
Trump, don't want to miss it.
You got Trump talking about immigration,
right?
Megyn Kelly, what's happening right now in the polls, the fact that he's widening his lead. Steve Malzberg is really going to give him some tough questions, and so it's going to be interesting to see if, when he faces these questions, will he continue to have this momentum? Donald Trump coming up at 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. You're not going to want to miss this show, and obviously a lot of things in the news today, including Hillary Clinton's emails. That's another one for Donald to dissect, and you can watch it, of course, right here on Newsmax TV, The Steve Malzberg Show. We're coming right back.